Hi there, Malcolm here with my 114th Booktube video, and today I'll be bringing you my October wrap-up and November TBR. I've got two great piles of books to get through, so let's get cracking. First up, I finished reading Charmcaster to my wife. This is book 3 of the Spellslinger series by Sebastian de Castell. We've already done a joint review for this one on her channel, so I'll leave a link to that if you want to go to find out what we thought about this one. And after I finished reading this one, I then finished reading The Sacred Vault by Andy McDermott. This is book 6 of the Wild Chase series, or Nina Wild and Eddie Chase. This is a high-octane Indiana Jones style adventure with a James Bond style plot. Complete nonsense, but an awful lot of fun. The plot is almost secondary in these sort of books. You're just in for the ride, and it's a good fun ride. Buy it. And after this, I then read Artemis, my book of the month. This is borrowed from the library, and I've already done an individual review video for this one. So I'll leave a link to that below if you want to know what I thought about that. And after that, I then read Night Walk by Bob Shaw to my wife. It's quite a short book, quite dense text, but managed to read an entire book within the month. And again, we did a joint video. I'll leave a link to it on her channel so you can check that one out. And that's the last time I'm going to do that to you this video. And after that, I then read Alta of Eden by James Rollins. In this one, I was expecting another Indiana Jones style adventure, but this is actually quite a lot different, where a shipping container crashes and a vet is sent to investigate, and it turns out that it's carrying a whole bunch of mutated animals with enhanced intelligence. Somebody's up to no good, and it's left to the guys investigating this mysterious ship of animals to find out who's behind it and what is going on. Quite a lot of it is complete nonsense, but the characters were quite fun, and I did like how the genre kind of changed as the book went on. It started off as a mystery, then it became a monster movie, and then it turned into a full-blown action film. So it did kind of progress throughout the book, but I'd say buy it. After that, I then finished The Walking Dead, The Road to Woodbury by Robert Kirkman and J. Bonan Singer. This is a novelisation tie-in to the comic book series, not the TV show. And I was reading this while boiling the kettle. It took me just over a year to read in this case. I get about a paragraph and a half in every time, so it took a while. No reflection on the book, it's just, it is what it is. This is book 2 of the series. The first book follows the governor before he's the governor, as he's on the run with his family and a living penny, just trying to survive the zombie apocalypse, and how they get to Woodbury. This story follows Lily, who, if you're familiar with the graphic novel series, in volume 8, with the assault upon the prison, she's the one that fires a couple of very fateful shots. I won't spoil it for those who don't know. And if you do want to know, Google it or read it. And so in this one, Lily and her friends are pretty much dismissed from a camp. Or the one guy is, but she goes with him. And then they have a couple of hangers-on. And as they're just trying to survive, they also stumble across Woodbury. And obviously there's a little bit more to Woodbury than they first think. There's a lot more to the governor than they first think. And this is very much a prequel to Rick's group encountering Woodbury from Woodbury's point of view. I don't say it adds anything particularly to the story. It perhaps fleshes out some of the characters a bit more, particularly the governor, as well as some of his henchmen. But this is very much Lily's story. So if you're fans of the show, you'll not know many of the characters in here. The governor is a very different governor to the one that's depicted on the screen, in some ways. It doesn't really do anything that other zombie stories haven't done before, but, you know, it's the characters we're here for, and they delivered. Worth reading. And after that, I then reread Assassins. This is book 6 of the Left Behind series by Tim LaHaye and J.B. Jenkins. In this series, the second coming has been and gone, and people are left behind on Earth to try and suffer through the tribulations. This is halfway through the series, and it's about halfway through the tribulations. And somebody wants to try and kill the man who would be Antichrist. And, of course, they're queuing up to do that. But it's who's it going to be? Who's going to actually do the fatal thing? Now, I remember quite enjoying this series when I first read it. As a reread, it's lost a lot of the appeal. I find the characters very irritating. And also, there's also an incredible amount of padding. I think if they took the padding out, the whole series would be about a third the size. There's 12 books in the main series. I think they could probably have done it in 4. However, it is slightly better than the previous book, particularly as Hattie's barely in it. But it does introduce a new character that's just there to wind up Rayford, and he's there to wind up her, and it's just, do we need this? I'm going to continue with the series, but at this point I don't think I'm going to read it again for a third time. But certainly for first read, it's worth reading. And after that, I then read Heroes Volume 1. This is the graphic novel collection featuring a whole bunch of short stories that were released as webcomics during the time that the show was first airing. And this gives you loads of behind the scenes little snippets. And literally each story is about 5 pages long, although there are a couple of serialised stories told over several comic releases, particularly following Wireless, who's a fantastic character. I think she's a 2-second appearance in the show itself, but she's really fleshed out in here, and it's a shame that she didn't actually get more airtime because she's one of the more compelling characters, I think. But if you know the show, it takes various scenes and either puts a little bit in between scenes, or just before a scene or after a scene, or the same scene from a slightly different point of view, gives characters backstories or what happened next. The artwork's pretty clear, it's fairly consistent throughout. There are different artists, so it does change a little bit, but it's good throughout. There are no bad drawings in this one, just different artwork, so some may work for you, some may not. Oh yeah, the stories are quite nice. Most of them are really short, and the longer ones are really compelling, with great characters in them. Really enjoyed reading this again, but this is a really good accompaniment to Season 1. Booktastic. And after that I then read Icebones by Stephen Baxter. This is book 3 of the Mammoth trilogy. In this one, the offspring of Silverhair, the mammoth of book 1, wakes up to find herself on Mars around the year 3000. There's been attempts to terraform Mars, to make Mars habitable, and it's failed. The humans are all gone, and the mammoths that the humans had brought with them are left to fend for themselves. I suppose it's the only mammoth who has any knowledge of Earth, and they kept her in stasis or something. It's never really explained, but she knows how to be a mammoth, whereas the mammoths that she encounters, they've all been reared by humans, fed by humans, kept by humans. They don't know how to live outside of human influence. And of course the humans are all gone, so it's left to, I suppose, to lead these mammoths to safety. And of course they're on Mars. Mars is now dying again. The atmosphere is thinning, it's getting colder. And the story really starts off with a sense of desperation and futility. There's no way that these animals are going to get off Mars. They're doomed. And so they go on an adventure to try and find a safe space. The first 2 books really surprised me. I think this one is perhaps the weakest of the 3, but still very, very compelling, very, very interesting, and some really interesting ideas, but certainly an overabundance of loss and desolation and hopelessness. I won't go so far to say it's a depressing book, but there's not much hope in it. When they come across abandoned human cities with automated bus systems and garbage collection systems that are just going around ferrying nothing from nowhere to nowhere, there's the all-pervading sense of overbearing futility. Some of the other encounters they have do stretch the limits of believability a little too far, but in the end a really good conclusion to 3 stories about mammoths. Buy it. And finally, after I read that, I then finished rereading Star Wars Legacy: The Hidden Temple. I've been rereading all my Star Wars graphic novels chronologically, and I'm near the end now, going through this fantastic Legacy series. I've got those comics, but I picture the graphic novel as it would have been if I'd managed to get it. Now, I've already scored this as a booktastic. I just love this series so much, but I would agree that there's not quite so much that happens in this one. It's one of the shorter ones. There's only 4 comics in this arc, and it's very much a prelude to what comes next, which is the final 2/3 of Vector Part 2. Which I also read, but because I didn't read the entire thing, I'm not counting it as a book, but I might as well just put it up here to say, yes, I did read this. In essence, the story follows an ancestor of Luke Skywalker, Cade Skywalker, who wants nothing to do with the Jedi. He wants to do his own thing, and he's walking on a knife's edge with the dark side and the light side within him, and he uses both with impunity. The Sith want him, the Jedi want him, bounty hunters want him. He just wants to be left alone. And in the Hidden Temple, he tries hiding out, it doesn't work, and he's been made to make choices. And basically this is him deciding. And then his further adventures in Vector, it's the final part of the 4-part cross-series arc, following Celeste Morn and the Mirrored Talisman. The wearer of this talisman is able to turn those around them into mindless beasts called Rakghouls. The story kicked off back in The Knights of the Old Republic with Zane Carrick, where she's put into stasis. She's woken up during the Dark Times, where Darth Vader tries to take her power. She then encounters Han, Luke and Leia, and now hundreds of years later, she's dealing with Cade. Roanfell, the Emperor, wants the talisman for himself. Cade wants to kill Darth Krayt, and Celeste Morn is at the end of her tether. Really exciting, gripping stuff, very explosive action, a fantastic conclusion to the 4-part story with quite significant outcomes to the Legacy series as well, and features excellent artwork. All good stuff. So that's what I've read. That's what I'm going to read. Starting off with On Basilisk Station, book 1 of the Honor Harrington series by David Webber. I so nearly finished reading this in October, had like 20 pages to go, so of course I was going to finish this first. As it's the 8th of November already, of course I have, but that's for next month. And after I finished reading that, I then moved on to my book of the month, which is Aliens, No Exit by B.K. Evanson. This is book 2 of this 2-book omnibus. A few months ago I read book 1, Criminal Enterprise by S.D. Perry. I was not terribly impressed with that one, and so this has gone back on the shelf. And it was really bugging me that I'd only read half of this book, technically, and so I wanted to read the other story. And after I finish that, I'm then going to read This Present Darkness by Frank Peretti. This is book 1 of the Darkness duology, where the forces of good and evil are fighting over the population of a town. I don't know what's so important about this town, but this is the battleground. I've already started it, so far so good. And once I finish that, I'm then moving on to 21st Century Dead, a collection of 20 zombie short stories. And once I get through that, I'll then read Star Wars The Last Jedi by Michael Reeves and Maya Kathleen Bonhoff. No, this is not the novelisation of that atrocious Disney film, but this is actually book 4 of the Coruscant Night series, following Jacques Pavan. The first 3 books of the series were before Order 66. This is now post Order 66. Jacques Pavan is still knocking about, and he's on another adventure. So, really looking forward to reading this one. And once I've done so, I'll then move on to Star Wars Shield of Lies by Michael P. Kuby McDowell. This is book 2 of the Black Fleet Crisis. Book 1 took me an age to get into, so really hoping that this is a better fare than book 1. Not holding my breath, but here's hoping. And if I do get through this one this month, then I'll try and read book 3, but I've got quite a few big books to get through already, so I don't know if I will. Doesn't look likely. My current graphic novel is Star Wars Legacy Storms. The graphic novel is a collection of 5 comics. I've read comics 1 to 3 already, so I've just got 4 and 5 to go, and I've finished that lot. And if I do, then I'll move on to the following story. Just plough on through those if I can. Really good stuff. And for the rest of the family, I'm still reading The Shepherd's Crown by Terry Pratchett to my boys, the last of the Discworld novels. To my older one, I'm reading African Adventure by Willard Price. To my younger one, I'm reading The Last Sky Pirate, an Edge Chronicles adventure by Paul Stewart and illustrated by Chris Riddle. And to my wife, I'm now reading Just One Damned Thing After Another. This is book 1 of the St. Mary's Chronicles by Jodie Taylor. My wife absolutely loves this series, has been banging on that I read it, so she's now getting me to read it to her. And yeah, I'm enjoying it, it's great stuff. And we haven't got far to go in it actually, we've flown through this one. It's about a historian, Dr. Madeline Maxwell, who joins the crew at St. Mary's to investigate major historical events in contemporary time. Apparently we're not allowed to use the word time travel, but they time travel. They go back in time, see what's going on, and generally things go badly, horribly wrong. Got some great humour in it, some great characters, some you love to love, some you love to hate, and literally anything can happen. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed that. So if you'd like to share with me what you've been reading or will be reading, then leave a link or a list in the comment section down below. Be sure to go and check out my wife's channel. She covers a whole bunch of different books than I do. Or if you have any questions or comments about the books I've just shown you, then let me know. But as usual, if you have nothing nice to say, then please keep it to yourself. Thank you, and until next time, see you later.